Hey guys, this is Bevan here, and in this video I'm going to do a very basic run and gun beginner's guide to capturing motion blur in waterfalls. Now this is a basic technique, but if you follow a few cardinal rules, then this can have wonderful effects in your final image. It can give it a really nice dreamy quality and is a really great tool to have in your outdoor and adventure shooting arsenal. Let's talk real quick about the equipment you're gonna need for this technique. Now, first up, and aside from your camera and your lens, you're gonna need a tripod. Now, the reason for this is because we're going to try and get as slow a shutter speed as we can. And we're gonna need our camera to stay as still as possible. And a tripod is gonna help us do that. Now, if you don't have a tripod, or if perhaps you are doing a long hike and you don't want to carry a tripod, then you could just as easily set your camera up against a rock or a firm surface, anything like that, as long as the camera stays still throughout the entire shooting process. The next thing you want to look at is a neutral density filter or a polarizing filter. Now, what these do is reduce the amount of light that comes into the lens and allows us to get an even slower shutter speed. Now, given if you're a beginner, you probably don't have a filter, so don't fear. You can still do this technique without it, but I just wanted to let you know that these filters really make the job a heck of a lot easier. So that about does it for equipment, really not that much needed. So let's talk about the settings. Now, as I said earlier, this is all about a slow shutter speed. So everything I do as far as settings are concerned are going to be to accommodate that slow shutter speed. So that means my ISO value is going to be set to the lowest number it can possibly go. In my instance, that's 100. I'm also going to set the aperture, or the lens iris, to the narrowest it can go. And for me, that's f22. For you, it's going to be whatever the largest f number is. The combination of these two settings is going to ensure that I get the slowest shutter speed possible. One other setting that's extremely important is your camera's self-timer. Now, you could shoot with the remote trigger, but if you're a beginner, and I'm assuming that you are, you probably don't have one of these. So in that case, your self-timer is going to have to do. Now, what this does is causes a short delay between the time you press the shutter button and the time your camera takes the photo. And that's very important when we're dealing with such slow shutter speeds, because any movement made by your hands is going to translate into your image. So that about does it for your camera settings and the equipment you're gonna need. You're basically good to go. And the last thing to think about is your actual setting. Now today I'm gonna be shooting a waterfall, but this technique will work for any moving body of water. So the ocean or flat riverbeds, anything like that, this is gonna be just fine. But one thing you want to look out for in the setting is a scene that has a little bit of tumultuous water. And by that I mean water cascading up against the rocks, causing that nice white, frothy sort of foam that makes the water look white. Now what that's going to do is give us that dreamy effect that we're after. If the water is a bit calm and not really doing much, this effect is kind of lost on it. So make sure you've got that nice setting. Next up, we want to look at the actual lighting conditions inside the scene. Now today, I'm shooting early in the morning and it's overcast today, so this is perfect lighting conditions. You could shoot later on in the evening or even into the night. But basically what you want to avoid at all costs is middle of the day, direct sunlight. That's gonna kill any chances of getting that slow shutter speed, especially if you don't have the neutral density filter. So that about does it for everything we need to consider. All that's left for me to do now is walk the rest of this path that I'm on to the waterfall I'm about to shoot, and I'm going to show you how to put all this together and get that motion blur inside your final image. Okay, so I'm at my scene. You can see my camera set up here on the tripod, and I'm going to be shooting this waterfall just over here. I've got some lovely green foliage on either side, which are wonderful dark tones that are going to contrast against the lightness of that waterfall and really give me a nice dreamy effect. So let's start by setting up the camera. Let's head on over there right now. First up, I'm going to start by setting my camera to manual mode. You can shoot in shutter if you like. I prefer manual mode just because I get a little bit more control. What this is going to allow me to do is control the shutter speed and the aperture independently of each other. The next thing I want to set is my ISO. So if I click on here, you can see that I have it set to 100. And for this camera, that's as low as it goes. So that's perfect. You can also see I've set the camera's aperture to f22 and the shutter speed of 4 seconds. So the combination of those 3 settings should give me a great exposure. And lastly, I want to come to the camera's back menu over here to set the timer. Now I can set it to a self timer of 2 seconds, which is going to be perfect, and I can see I've already set it. So this is going to ensure that when I press the shutter button, there will be a 2-second delay, and that's going to give me plenty of time to get my hand away from the camera. Cool, so we have everything set up, we're good to go. I'm going to snap a few shots here, and let's see how it comes out. Okay, so that just about does it for me here at the waterfall. As you can see, it's starting to get really bright, so I'm probably not going to be able to get any more slow shutter speed shots. I've packed up all my gear, I'm about to head on out, so let's see how those photos turned out. So there we have it, a very simple, easy way for you to capture motion blur in waterfalls. So let's summarize the main parts. First up, you need that camera as stable as possible, so use a tripod or a firm surface. You want to use your camera's self-timer to avoid any handshake, and you want your camera to be at its slowest shutter speed possible, with all the other settings accommodating that. Finally, you want your scene to have a little bit of tumultuous water and shot under lighting conditions that are dark and allow for that slow shutter speed. You get all this right, you're going to get a great photo. So give us a go, let me know how it goes down below, and until next time, take care, bye-bye.